All right, here we are. Episode number 90 of the Cozy Corner of Cinema. This is being recorded on Tuesday, December 19th, 2023 at 3:56 p.m. This is a chilly day. It's been windy as all hell today, man. I tell you, I go to walk to my car and the cool breeze just rapid like gunfire in the air, just penetrating right through you. It was completely gnarly. You drive on the road, you feel your car start to move around. Make sure that you got your barrels where they need to be. They're not being knocked over and no trash being knocked over. I tell you, if the barrels are not too full, and that trash is gonna go everywhere, man. I tell you, me going around and having to pick it all up, and God forbid there's any glass or any kind of recycling there, or it's a whole issue right there. So just keep an eye out for anything in your yard that will that might have an impact because of the weather, if it should apply to you. My throat's a little dry. I apologize. I got this coffee right here, so I'm trying to keep a steady flow of liquid, but at the same time not stopping the conversation too frequently, as well as not trying to drink into the microphone. I tell you, you listen to some podcasts and they're eating and they're drinking in the microphone. Oh my gosh, man! It's like those it's like those mukbang videos, man. People eating into the microphone. Holy macaroni! No pun intended. We're wrapping up the end of the year. It's a great time of the year. It's a cool time of the year. Literally a cool time of the year. If you're in a state with winter weather, that's great. But even if you're not, you can get in that winter weather mentality of staying inside, getting under the blanket, drinking some hot beverages, whether it be tea or cocoa or coffee or anything like that. And, we have the holidays right around the corner. We want to buy gifts for our loved ones, people whom we enjoy the company of family, of friends, acquaintances, all that stuff. It's very easy to be overwhelmed by deadlines and by having to do this or do that by X amount of time, but we're going to take it one day at a time. We're going to take one thing at a time, one aspect at a time, not get overwhelmed, not let the daily milieu nonsense get us down. Because we have to keep moving on forward so we can have a productive rest of our life. That's all we got to look forward to. We got to look forward to the rest of our life, man. We don't want to waste it doing nothing, talking about nothing, associating people who are going to do nothing. Unless that's what you want to do, then God bless you, but I'm only going to speak for myself. But, yeah, man, so it's been a never-ending game of catch-up. It seems to be a constant sort of theme here. But it really is, man. I've just been trying to catch up on so much stuff lately that some stuff has been sacrificed above others. I just have not had the opportunity, as much of an opportunity to get reading done as I would have liked to. I've made not as much progress in this book that I thought I would have by this point with my previous track record for the year. But that's right. It'll get done when it gets done. Same with, the writing's going great. That's going fantastic. The watching has to be kept up with. It's all these things you got to keep in a constant flow. You want to keep your own kind of daily routine, daily pattern that you don't even have to think twice about it. You just know, okay, I got to do this. I got to do X, Y, and Z. I got to do A, B, C, And not just find yourself, sitting on your telephone, scrolling through social media, reading comments, watching like these little videos and stuff, and then wondering like, oh my gosh, the day's already over. What the hell? I had so much to do today. It's like, well, man, I can tell you where that time went, but it's that little short, the short rush of dopamine because you see, something on the internet and you get fired up about something someone said. You don't even know. It's just like, brother, that's a life being thrown away right there. You just see, it's just like people glued to their telephones, man. It's just gnarly as hell. It's just finding those moments of time to really kind of to hone in your art, to really kind of perfect your craft and grow every single day. That's what the game plan is, what life's game plan is, man. So that when we reach the end, we can feel accomplished on what we've achieved in the time we were given. It's beautiful, man. It's absolutely beautiful. I don't think I'm going to finish that book before the end of the month. I don't know. At least at this rate, it doesn't seem likely. So maybe next week or... Because I got 2 episodes left of the Cozy Corner I got to do before the end of the year. So one of these episodes, maybe I'll talk about some of the books that I had read this year. Or at least some of the highlights, I should say, because I've read quite a bit this year. And some of which I've already talked about on the show. So I won't go too in-depth on it, but it'd be worth noting that nonetheless. I got a thing to record at the end of this week, so I've been trying to catch up on some of these films that I've owned. We're doing a little Blu-ray list video or episode, podcast, whatever you want to call it. So I've been having to get some of these watched in so I can make a comprehensive list, as well as I got these list of films here I got to watch, as well as this writing project that I've been working on. And these have to get watched before I can even continue the writings. I need context. So it's just one thing after another, but it's good. You know, it's sort of like, it's good to have your life's dreams and goals right in front of you, because you got to, to go after it and achieve it, and not just millie around and just kind of drift through daily life and just do nothing. It's just not worth it, man. It's not worth throwing that life away for cheap, kind of petty, brief kind of amusements that ultimately don't lead to anything besides just, like I said before, these kind of short bursts of dopamine that fade away. It's like food. It's like fast food, man. It's not really good for you. It's fun once in a while and all that, but if you're only eating fast food, man, then don't be surprised if you get older and you're having trouble, breathing, having trouble walking, or anything like that. It's like, I don't know, man. It's what it is. I ain't gonna preach to you all day about that. It's just 2 cents I'd like to give. This coffee's delicious, by the way, so I keep having to pause it. Not pause it, but I keep having to stop my conversation flow to get a sip of this. It's crazy. You watch so many films a year that it's so easy to forget what you actually watch. And I write down every film that I watch. I mean, I log in a letterbox as well, but I've also been handwriting this. Every film I've watched since 2012. So I've been handwriting every single film every year that I've seen for 11 years now, including short films, including, I would say, miniseries, but I don't really watch it enough that often. I mean, I guess I'm thinking like I watched like The Kingdom from Lars von Trier, so I'd write that down. I recently went through the Pacific, which I don't watch TV or anything like that. I mean, I don't consider these to be like TV shows. I'm not gonna sit down and watch like like a sitcom or something. It's just not even remotely on the radar. But these are, I find, completely different because they feel more cinematic in terms of just like structure. And okay, so what I was saying before is that, sorry, I'm trying to get things organized here. Got this paper here, got my coffee here, got to get everything in line. Got to get this episode out, so I don't want to waste any more time. Here we go. All right. Hopefully my phone doesn't go off. So we're going to be talking about Elvira Madigan, film from 1964, I believe. Let me pull it up here. 1967. Not 64. 1967. Directed by Bo Widerberg. This is part of... Now, I knew of this film, but I could not remember for the life of me if I had seen this one or not. And I had watched it, which goes without saying, of course, as we're going to talk about it. And I looked, and I had already seen this last year, but it had gone out of my memory. So, this was really a first-time watch in terms of it really sticking with me, because there were moments that seemed familiar, but overall as a film, it hadn't quite stuck with me from the first initial viewing. But like I said, this is directed by Bo Widerberg, written by Bo Widerberg, also by Johan Lindström, Saxon, starring 2 primary actors. Here you have Pia Dagermark, who plays the main title character, and then you have Tommy Berggren, who plays Sixten Spare. And this is a really great journey along the countryside. Now, I don't know, this takes place, I believe, soon after, I don't know which war it is, so I do have to apologize on that. It takes place in the late 1800s. That's what it is here. And it's these 2 characters who are going along this countryside of, where was it? It's the Danish countryside. That's correct here, man. And they're on the run. You have this main character. Like I said before, Lieutenant 16 Spar, who has abandoned his post. They're going after him. Elvira Madigan is a tightrope walker, and they both want to live their own quiet life, get away from the authorities, but, they have a bit of celebrity about them. They're going along the countryside, kind of scavenging what they can, surviving on what they can. And it's a film that it is stronger on the mood than it is any kind of story. You know, a film like this, if you're going to be looking for a something closer to a traditional narrative, then you're going to be disappointed, because this is far more about being with these characters and just how far they will go. And when I say how far they will go, I don't necessarily mean in a dark way, because doesn't turn into a film like Weekend or something like that, where you have these two characters, and you know it gets progressively darker as it goes along. But it's more so we see the difficulties that these two characters face. Now, the thing is that the film almost kind of sneaks up on you with I don't even want to say essential conflict, because that'd be the incorrect thing to say. However, the true seriousness of the situation is an afterthought in an intentional way, where you have these characters who are going along living off of their own love for one another. And there was actually one line that I wrote down that really stuck out. It says, I think it was Elvira that says, "We can't butter our bread with love," because they're starving, and as much as they love one another, they can only go so far, to the point where they're scouring along on the ground in the woods trying to find really anything. And the film has a fairly relaxed tone throughout that, even when it gets to the more dire consequences that these characters find themselves in, an increasingly hopeless situation where they can't turn to anybody, they can't turn to anything, they are just one another. It always has that same sort of tonal feeling, even up to the ending as well. Fantastic ending as well. Let me get my coffee right here. Give me 1 second on this. Now, when I was mentioning before about the conflict kind of creeping in on you, and I mean, you're watching this film, man, you have these two leads, and at no point, I mean, it says that these two guys are, Elvira and Sixton are starving, but, you know, you don't get a clear sense of any kind of starvation from them. I mean, throughout the entire film, they look good. I mean, they got makeup on. It doesn't look like any kind of drastic weight loss. So you can view that as any which way you want, whether that is, I don't know how intentional of a choice that is. I've read nothing on this film. I've read no interviews with Bo Widerberg or anything about the other relations that it has to what's the word I'm looking for? Because I forgot what the text at the beginning of the film said, but I don't know if it alluded that this was a true story or if this was something else entirely. I may not be able to pull that up right here, but either way. It's a terrific film, though. I mean, the thing with the film is that it has that relaxed feeling. But as it goes along, you know that the situation is not going to be able to get any better for these two. They have two options: to starve or to face the authorities. And it looks like for the majority of their case, they're willing to just kind of wait it out and see if the situation gets better. This sort of idealistic love that's doomed from the very start. Whether or not they can find a way to make it last and keep themselves alive is up for you to find out. But I should also say how the film is shot. It is beautiful. The sun paints a lot of these sets where you just see these great, lush, open, yellow, kind of grassy landscapes. The costume designs as well. I mean, it's all, like I said before, it's in the late 1800s, so you have these fantastic, dresses and suits, and it's all just top tier, man. This is the only Bo Widerberg film that I've seen. I intend to go through the rest of the collection before I have a deadline I have to get to, so I'm not sure if I can't compare this to really anything else, nor should it. It should really kind of just stand on its own. However, sometimes for historical kind of context, because I'm looking at a film like Donkey Skin by Jacques Demy, compared to some of his other films, where that is a period piece, but then in some of his other films, The Embrace of Cherbourg and The Young Girls of Rochefort and Lola are more contemporary pieces, but it's interesting to see a film like that where he is working in an entirely different kind of landscape and is able to contrast his more traditional sort of films as opposed to that, because that's definitely the odd man out, I would say. I haven't seen all of Jacques Demy's films, so I can't say for sure, but this film in particular, I can't really compare to anything else of Bo Widerberg's filmography. But I film another film with this would be an obvious comparison, but I think it's worth mentioning nonetheless. Is another film that, this film is actually based on a true story. It's a more popular Hollywood film, Into the Wild, from 2007, directed by Sean Penn, starring Emile Hirsch, based on a true story of this man. His name was Chris McCandless, who grew up in a very wealthy family. He had everything that he could possibly want, but decides to give all his money away and basically live off of the land and the side effects, the positives and the negatives, and the ultimate outcome of that lifestyle that it affects on him. That's a far more popular film. The true story of that as well has been talked about much and has been speculated upon to this day of how much of the film, and not only the film, but of the novel itself, is accurate to the real situation. Ultimately, this is a situation where we have one person who is by themselves, so we can only speculate on so much of it. But that film is a fair companion piece to this. That is a more Hollywood populist film. This film, Elvira Madigan, is far more avant-garde, far more about the character than it is about the story. But overall, I would say that the two do kind of work with each other about this sort of way of the land and how long can you really survive on it. You know, how long these people who come from royalty or come from this is a kind of wealthy background and rejecting that for something closer to being one with the earth. It's fantastic, man. No, this is a fantastic film. Into the Wild as well is very good as well. It's been a few years since I've seen it, so it's more so specific sequences that are remembered than entire portions of the film. But that film as well, I think, is very good and should be, and really is recommended as well. Should be seen, should you be interested. So terrific stuff there, absolutely. Keeping up with, coincidentally, actually, another collection that I had to get to, and this film came up as to watch, so it kind of all worked out, was a later work from Mr. Francois Truffaut. This was his 1978 film, The Green Room. This is directed by Truffaut, written by him, Jean Girault, and Henry James, and it stars Truffaut. And this would be his final acting role. This film was released in 1978. He would pass away in 1984, died very young. But this wouldn't be his last directed film. He would do a couple others after this, including the follow-up to this, which would be his last of the Antoine Doinel films, which would be Love on the Run from 1979. Then he would do The Last Metro in 1980, The Woman Next Door in 1981, and Confidentially Yours in 1983. But this would be, like I said before, his last acting role, let alone the subject matter of the film, and the fact that, above all else, this feels like a proper... Now, I haven't seen... the only film of his I've seen after this is The Last Metro, which is a good film, but I haven't seen the other couple. I haven't seen Confidentially Yours or The Woman Next Door. I apologize. I've also seen Love on the Run. I do apologize about that. But The Green Room feels like kind of a good farewell to his career, starting, we had the start of his career with The 400 Blows, a film about the youth, about this character, Antoine Doinel, and the problems that he gets into in his daily life. Again, when I'm talking about Elvira Madigan, it's far more about the character and the mood rather than a cohesive plot. Not to say the film is incohesive, but if that's what you're looking for, then you were looking for it in the wrong place. Unlike The Green Room, which is closer to a plot, a traditional plot, in terms of not exactly its structure, but in terms of it having a clear having a clear progression, with these characters, primarily with the main character Julian, played by Truffaut, who this film is a meditation on death, on the people in his life who have died. Julian is somebody who has come back from war, and I think he was coming back from war. I'm trying to remember. Yeah, that's right, because he was talking about the people who his friends he had lost in the war, and so his wife has passed away. The film at the beginning starts out with him at a funeral, and he is seeing death differently than the people in the room. You know, he's taking it far more personally, where he understands sort of the weight of the situation. In that he doesn't see death as he doesn't see it in the way that the other people there see it. Early on, there's a priest who's talking about how they're going to live on in heaven and everything's all that. And Truffaut rejects that idea, and he basically sees death as a celebration in a way where he wants to keep their memories and keep their spirits alive in the way that they affected, you know, the characters in the film and the rejection of this idea of something of a tragedy. Because what it goes into is that in the contrast of that, when he rejects the idea of what the priest says, there's this abandoned church that he wants to make as sort of a memorial to those people who have died. And he wants to light a candle for each person to keep those candles, the flames on those candles burning, to keep their memory alive. You know, he's having all these visions in his head of the people who didn't come home from war, of people close to him who've passed. And it's a sadness, but it's not a melancholy. He is seeing this in a way where he feels obligated to keep their memories alive because he feels like everybody else won't. There's a great moment in the first act of the film where a character, which goes back to the beginning, where a character has very quickly moved on from a death, a loved one who was close, and Truffaut is sickened at the idea. He's furious. He says, "How can you even remotely move on to somebody else? This is somebody who cared for you, and this is somebody who actually their life actually meant something." And it's all about how we all perceive death in our own varied ways. And with Truffaut, it feels very personal in the way that he sees these characters. And the reason why I say it's kind of an interesting bookend to his career, even though it's not his last film, is that contrast of Truffaut is, I mean, you know, what year was the 400 Blows? That was 1959. So this is 1978, almost 20 years later. And I mean, Truffaut would only live for less than another decade now. So you have this person who's at the end of their life, presumably. I mean, when I say the end of their life, not the end of their age. You know, I'm talking about like they're not an old man, but in retrospect, that's what it kind of, you know, having perspective on Truffaut not being around for that much longer compared to a lot of his contemporaries. I mean, Godard just passed away fairly recently, so Truffaut died fairly young, but was able to put out many a great work. And in a way, watching this film with his death in that perspective kind of makes Truffaut's actual death in real life, it gives a different outlook on the whole situation of just the fact that we're still watching these films, the fact that we're still discussing Truffaut's work and keeping his memory alive, not in just a superficial way of just saying he was a great artist, he was a great filmmaker, he was a great writer, a great actor. You know, that's superficial. It's all about what he meant to the people who were close to him, much in the same way that you or I, the people whose lives have affected us, and the lives that we affect unto others. And, you know, those who have come and gone with us, and keeping that spirit alive for them. Maybe not a chapel of candles, literally, but maybe metaphorically, just keeping that flame burning. You know, it's a film that I had to sit on for a couple days because the way that it goes along is that it feels almost ethereal in a weird kind of way at times, where it feels almost like when it get to the stuff with the chapel, when you get to all the candles there, it's all lit by these candles. The place is abandoned. It feels almost kind of like not even an afterlife per se, but it feels like sort of a different plane of existence, a plane of reality. There's a great kind of tracking shot when you first go in. It's this dark kind of woodsy area at night, and you just see kind of these faint crosses in the background, all rusted, and maybe not rusted, I'm sorry, all grass overgrown on them. And then once you step in, and the burning of these candles illuminates this life out there, kind of in from the darkness, showing that it's all right, man. You know, those who have come with us are not here physically with us anymore, but their spirit is always with us. There's something very poetic and very not sad about it. It's very like hopeful in the way, and that's why I feel like with this film, you know, I enjoy the last Metro is good. And I really do like Love on the Run. I guess, actually, ironically, that'd be the end of that series as well, the Antoine Donnell films. There was about 6 of those, and I think I've seen all but, like, 2 or 3 of them. I can't remember. I've seen Stolen Kisses, Bed and Board, 400 Blows, and Love on the Runs. So, there are 2 I haven't seen. But in a way, this feels like a great bookend to just a brilliant, brilliant filmmaker. The way that this is shot, the way that the tracking shot goes into the chapel, it's these candles like behind this like gate, this kind of entrance to it's like other world, man. It's just so touching, and it's so the way that he has all these pictures up on the walls and he's talking about the people that he knew. It's very poetic, and I don't want to use like shallow, simple kind of phrasings of this. This is a film that I think I really do need to sit on. But of Truffaut's work, it's one of his that has stuck with me, I guess, most impactfully. And this isn't to say this is like my favorite of his work, you know, but I am saying that as much as I enjoy some of his work, like, you know, Stolen Kisses or Day for Night or one of these kinds of films, I think The Green Room is a different kind of film. And in that respect, it has a different sort of lasting feeling beyond a shallow, oh, it was just a good film or this or that, man. It's a wonderful, wonderful film, and I think it's one of Truffaut's most underrated in terms of I've not really heard too much about this in the conversation. I would be interested to go back and read that Truffaut book that I had finished earlier this year, that I'd gone through his films, and I still haven't seen a couple of his films. I think I haven't seen Through the Piano Player. I haven't seen his American Fahrenheit 451. Fahrenheit. I always forget the hell it's called. 451. I'm sorry. Long day at work, y'all. Anyways, but great stuff nonetheless. I did watch this on the Kino Lorber collection, so keep that in mind. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful film, and one of Truffaut's very best. Great stuff. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up for this one. I think this is a good place. Elvira, Madigan, and The Green Room. 2 wonderful, quiet, methodical art films that are completely worthy of your time, if that is what you're looking for. But thank you guys for listening yet again. We'll be back soon. Got some new episodes coming up. Got one recording later this week, so that'll be up as soon as can be. But anyways, I'm going to wrap it up right here. Thank you for listening. Take care. Have a great rest of your day or night whenever you're listening to this.